So this is a question by someone named Jake Grant. And Jake is saying, greetings. I wanted to pose a question regarding prophetic infallibility. I have a variety of purposes for reaching out. Primarily, I would be interested in your scholarly research and suggestions for further reading. My first question is in regards to the book of Revelation and the missing 12,000 from the tribe of Dan. I noticed in your teaching about the scattered tribes of Israel, you mentioned Dan would be gathered. Yet this tribe is missing from chapter 7 of Revelation. Secondly, as someone unfamiliar with the Quran and the Ahadith, I was curious as to your organization's suggested reading material. What narrations, where to find them, where to start in study to investigate the claims?
So in terms of our reading materials, you can find them on our website, in our library. And our reading materials are quite vast because we are not limited to one particular book like many of the religions do. For example, you have Jews that only read the Tanakh. You have Christians that only stick to the Gospels. You have Muslims that only stick to the Quran and they disregard reading the previous books. As far as we go, we embrace and we read the Quran and we also read the Gospels and we read the Tanakh or the Torah. We also read the Bhagavad Gita and we read the different writings of the prophets and the messengers, known and unknown, such as Buddha and the great philosophers such as Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, etc., that we consider to be prophets and messengers in our religion. We also hold tight the teachings and the words of Imam Ahmad al-Hassan alayhi salam, and there are a couple of important books of his that are available for reading on our website, mainly the book The Calf and also the book of Monotheism. We also have The Goal of the Wise, which is an important book for people to read as well as the Mahdi's Manifesto. And we believe that this dawah is in the process of spreading and unraveling and unveiling 27 letters of knowledge. And so the process of revealing the true knowledge of God is going to happen now, and it is happening now, and it will continue to happen during my lifetime and the lifetime of Imam Ahmad al-Hassan and the Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. And there will be more revelations in this time than there ever has been in the lives of any of the other previous prophets and messengers. Now, in relation to the book of Revelation is a very important topic. It's extremely important, and it's necessary that we do an entire we will probably be writing an entire book on it, and we will probably be doing an entire series of lectures that have to do with the book of Revelation, because when we start talking about a particular topic, it's very easy for somebody to say, for example, that actually this is the truth of the matter. But for example, if we were to say that Paul was a false apostle, it's very easy to do so, but it's very hard to convince the opposing force that what I'm saying is true. And so you have to build a case that's logical, that forces the other side to either submit to your conclusion or at least to question their own beliefs. And that is what I want to do with the book of Revelation. Here's what I can say about the book of Revelation in this particular answer. One, I promise that I will be doing a full response to your question and to many other aspects of the book of Revelation that will surprise the reader. What I can say is that the book of Revelation is a controversial book. It's a book that did not come into existence, or the earliest copy of it. It comes hundreds of years after Jesus Christ. What we can say is that the Christians themselves, the early Christians, when they were compiling the current version of the New Testament, many of them opposed the inclusion of the book of Revelation itself, and they considered it to be a forgery or something that had been altered or manipulated. This is their own words, and so there was a great battle and disagreement in regards to that. Many of the respected voices of Christianity, they rejected that book, and they said that it was a forgery, and a forgery of a man in particular by the name of Cerinthus. And there were other scholars of Christianity, or early Christians, that quoted from the book of Revelation, and that ultimately led them, because they liked those particular voices, to say, okay, well, we must include the book of Revelation into the current version of the New Testament. And so our position on it is this. We believe that the book of Revelation, its origin is true, that the basis for it is true, but it has been altered and misinterpreted. And there were alterations that were made to the book on purpose, that people made for particular reasons, either because they misinterpreted the text and they included in the text to their own understandings, or because they were angry that this book was included in the New Testament itself, and so they made alterations to it. Okay, and this greatly changed the meaning. And so there were reversals that were made to the book. Certain things or forces or characters that were meant to be good ones were reversed, and they were meant to be bad ones. They were made to be bad ones, etc. And so that makes the book of Revelation to be very problematic. But it's something that needs that we take it section by section. Another important reason why we have to make this series about the book of Revelation is because the entire book itself is a vision. It's a dream, and dreams need interpretations. And the Christians failed to interpret the book of Revelation over the centuries, and they have actually disagreed with one another over the meanings of it. And in every day and age, the Christians have sought to apply the particular events that are taking place in the book of Revelation to the time that they are living in. Now, a lot of the scholars have said, and most of the scholars agree, that the book of Revelation is actually talking about the past, and it's not talking about the future. And that's another problem, is that Jesus Christ had said that the current generation would not pass away except until, before they see the judgment take place, and all of these prophecies of the end times and his second coming. And so there is kind of this illusion that Jesus already came and the judgment came over Israel in the year 70 AD, and that the characters that are mentioned in the book of Revelation, they apply actually to characters that were living in that time. And that's why you have most of the scholars believing that, for example, one of the characters, the Antichrist, 666, that this applies to Nero, who was the Roman emperor that was living at that time, and that it's not something that applies to today. Now, because we believe that all words that come from the mouths of a prophet and a messenger are alive in every day and age, we believe that even if these texts applied to particular individuals that lived in the past, that they would still have a meaning which is applicable today. And in the time of the Prophet Muhammad, or in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, or in the time of the Mahdi. And so in this great ocean of confusion, there's a lot of light that must be shed. And so very, very soon we will be making a series about the book of Revelation and clarifying a lot of these facts and these notions. So I just want them to be a little bit patient with us. And as soon as we make it, I want you, Alia, to make sure that you send him, actually get his contact details and send him the episode.
Yes, I will, al-Sadiq, and it's very exciting to hear that. We're looking forward to it, inshallah.
Thank you.